In construction, most content out there about AI is about these big multi-billion-dollar things. Drones surveying site, robots laying bricks or automatically building the whole buildings and so on. But that's not really what matters for a small construction company. If you're spending your evenings quoting projects, if you have customers that are panicked because they're not hearing from you, and if your receipts pile up because you don't have time to reconcile them, then this video is for you. Hey, my name's Ivan. I build AI automation systems for small businesses, and I've delivered over 20 projects in industries such as construction, e-commerce, medical practices, recruitment firms, and so on. I've actually built a quote building system for builders with a builder for builders, and I'll show you a bit later exactly how that works. So by the end of this video, you'll know 3 ways builders are using AI to save hours every day, and you'll know which one is a good first one to try in your business. First one is going to be quoting, and I'll show you an actual system. The second is going to be about keeping your clients in the loop without that eating into your day. And the third one is going to be about keeping track of your job expenses without any spreadsheets. So let's get into it. If you're a builder, you probably know the feeling and the process. You go to a site, you spend an hour or two writing down information, measuring things, and then you drive home and that sits on your desk for 2 to 3 days because it takes an hour or two to write it up and there's other things you need to do. In the meantime, your client is waiting for your quote, is also asking for quotes from other builders, and the more time that passes, the less likely you are to actually close that deal. The industry averages are about 25 to 35% close rate, meaning you send 4 quotes for every one that you win. So that's a lot of wasted hours on things that don't actually bring you any money. So I built a quoting tool together with a builder that cuts down significantly on this time. So let me show you how that works. So I'm starting a new quote here, and first I'm selecting the type of project. So let's say this is a decor landscaping business job. And then I need to fill in some information here. And there are 16 steps here. So basically what this involves is adding information such as what it looks like, what the sizes are, what the materials I'm going to be using, and so on. So to save you from watching me going through this quote, I'm just going to show you how one looks like. So this is one that's been built, and we've got the description here. And then we've got the scope of works, we've got the materials and cost breakdown, and then we've got things like labor hours breakdown and subcontractor costs. In this case, there are none because it's a simple project. Then we've got a timeline, we've got a total project cost, I can adjust my margin, there's notes and terms that I want to include, and then at the end of it, I can export this as a PDF, and this is what that looks like. So we've got the estimate, we've got the project overview and scope of works, we've got the materials and cost breakdown, and so on. It's branded, it contains all the information that the client's going to need, and it's ready to send. It takes significantly less time than building this by hand from scratch, and even though it might not be perfect in terms of the actual numbers that are in there, it's close enough that it serves as a preliminary quote, and if the client wants to continue the conversation, you can then go into more detail about the specifics. So the whole thing takes minutes instead of hours, and because it uses the builder's own price book, it means that the prices actually reflect the real prices of the materials they're going to be using. And this matters a lot because when you're sending quotes quickly, you're much more likely to close the deals. In fact, research shows that 78% of customers go with the first business that responds. That's a big number, big percentage, and it gives you a significant edge if you can respond quickly. The second thing is it just saves you time, especially if you're doing this in the evenings after your regular job, and this is the time you could be doing something better like spending time with your family or working on the business. And then finally, it also makes things consistent. So using a system like this means you don't forget to include something, you don't underquote because you were rushing, and so on. Now, to be clear, this doesn't replace you quoting completely. It doesn't replace your judgment. You still need to go to the site, you still need to measure things, you still need to review everything before it goes out. But it significantly cuts down on the time you need to spend doing this and makes the process a lot less annoying. So the AI handles the repetitive and boring part, produces professional output, but it still uses your judgment and your expertise. So here's something that happens on almost every building job. The client hires you, you start the job, and then from their perspective, it looks like silence. They don't know when you're starting. They don't know what's going on. When's the next tradie coming? When is the next stage of the build happening? And so on. And so they might call you, they might email you. Sometimes you're in the middle of something else and then they start panicking because they don't know what's happening and they think the project might be stalled. And this is not because you're bad at communication. It's just because you're actually doing your job and you're not just sitting at the desk all day answering their questions. So to automate this, the idea is simple. The client just gets updates at key project without any direct updates from you beyond just marking what's been done. So this might look something like this. At the start of the project, you might have, hey, name, just confirming we're booked to start your project on this date. And here's what to expect in the first week. Or when you reach a milestone, you might say, quick update, framing is done and the inspection is booked for Thursday, everything's on track, and so on. So each of these can be triggered by changing the status in whatever system you use to track the jobs. It can be a CRM, it can be even a simple spreadsheet. And so when the status changes, the message goes out. You never have to type it in manually, and it looks like it's coming from you, it's personalized to them, and it keeps them up to date. Here is another thing from research. Most homeowners complain about communication with builders, not the quality of work. So by doing something like this, the clients feel like they're being looked after. You need a way to keep track of the status of the project, and most builders will already have something like that. And for a lot of these systems, there are things off the shelf that can be used to automate this, or you can have something built custom for you. But the point is just that these messages are sent consistently and they sound like they're coming from you, not like a corporate email blast. Now, the third system is about expense tracking. Now, every single builder I've talked to, and my personal experience has been like this as well, is when there are things you need to buy, you go to the store, you buy them, you shove the receipt somewhere, and then that piles up for the month, often for a quarter, or even for a year. And then at the end of whatever the period that is, you've got a full box of receipts. Some of them are faded, some of them are missing, some of them are torn, and you need to match each one of them to each of the projects and figure out what went where. It's a nightmare, it's annoying, it's messy, and it can even be a problem if you are not diligent enough to actually keep track of everything if you ever get audited. So this is what a solution could look like. You go to the hardware store, you buy some materials, you pull out your phone, snap a photo of the receipt, and maybe just say, with your voice, something like, if you're in Australia, Bunnings for the Smith renovation, framing, timber, and fixings. And that's it. You're done. The system takes care of the rest. So the photo gets read automatically, the items recognized, the price recognized, the date, as well as this goes into the correct project, and the running expenses for the project are kept up to date. So this way you can check at any point how much you spent against a particular job and how you're tracking against the estimates. And this really helps because you know if a job is running over budget immediately, not 3 months later. Your tax time becomes trivial because everything is already in order, it just needs to be submitted. And then the whole thing takes a few seconds per receipt. Now, the truth is, a system like this does need to be set up. Somebody needs to set up the categories, the projects, and everything else. But once it's set up, it becomes a nearly zero effort on an ongoing basis. Now, to recap, we covered 3 things. One was quoting, to make the whole quoting process more consistent, easier, and faster. We covered client communication so that they are not kept in the dark and it's not taking away from your time. And then finally, expense management, so you can keep track of where you are with each project and so that your tax time reconciliation is a lot easier. And if you're picking one to start with, I would say quoting, because it's the one that has the most direct effect on winning more work, and so you can see the ROI quickest. Now, if you'd like to see how any of these other examples will work for your business specifically, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to respond. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and see you next time.